Hey everyone, this is Rudy from Rudy and Marta Photography, and here's my cat Ginger. Now, I wanted to go ahead and talk to you all about wedding planning, but if this is your first time here watching a video in the series, I recommend that you actually click up here. That way you can go ahead and see the beginning of the video series, the methodology behind it, and why we're doing it in the first place. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about wedding planning. So, I'm not a wedding planner myself per se, but I do know plenty of wedding planners in the wedding industry. And if there's one thing that I can say is that there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes throughout the wedding planning process that most people aren't aware of. If you're starting to plan your own wedding right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that there's an overabundance and overwhelming amount of things that you have to do in order to make sure that your wedding planning or that your wedding goes smoothly. Now, that being said, I am not a wedding planner, I'm a wedding photographer, so I leave the wedding planning to the wedding planning pros. I went ahead and I reached out to an expert. Her name is Christy, and she's the proud owner of Anna Christine Events, and she'll go ahead and talk a little bit about what couples should keep in mind when they're talking to a wedding planner, and kind of what they should keep in mind when planning throughout the entire process with a wedding planner. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Hey everyone, this is Rudy from Rudy and Marta Photography, and I am over at Anna Christine Events in their downtown office talking to them about wedding planning and what brides and couples should keep in mind when speaking with one throughout the wedding planning process and afterwards. So, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy day to talk to me about wedding planning and all that stuff. But Christy, tell me a little bit about yourself and about your company.
Sure. So my company's been around for about 11 years. Mm-hmm. It is myself and my sister mainly that manage our events. We are very fortunate to do quite a few events throughout the year, focusing mainly on weddings, but we do some corporate and some social stuff too. But yeah, it's a great time. We have great clients, and we really love what we do.
That's awesome. I know, full disclosure, I've worked with Christy plenty of times in the past. And you all are always on your A game all the time. When a bride goes ahead and gets engaged, or any couple, whenever they get engaged, when should they think about reaching out to a wedding planner for hiring them?
Sure. So we recommend that you hire the vendors that can only do your event first. So that's going to be your planner, your venue, your photographer, your DJ, and your officiant, because they can't be in two places at once.
Yeah.
Luckily, a lot of florists, bakers, caterers, they can manage more than one event at a time, but the ones that I mentioned before, they can't clone themselves and be in two places at once.
That's definitely true. So would you recommend getting the venue first and then speaking with a planner, or getting a planner first and then?
You know, some clients know their venue. Like they've seen it, they know it, they get a ring on their finger, and it's after their friends and family, it's the first place they call. Mm-hmm. For other people, they have no idea. They've never really thought about it. They don't know if they like barns or hotels or historic locations. So if that's the kind of client you are, calling a planner first could definitely be helpful. There's a ton of venues in Central Florida, and if you're willing to travel, the possibilities are endless, and that can be really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So depending on which of those two categories you fall into, either could be a good option.
Okay. And we're talking broad wedding planner spectrum. Now,
exactly.
In regards to your company, mm-hmm. You mentioned that it's mainly you and your sister.
It is.
So does that mean that you only accept a limited amount of weddings throughout the year?
We do. It's more so we only accept a limited amount during a week.
Okay.
So definitely some months are busier than others, but mm-hmm. it's really only the two of us plus our day of assistants. Mm-hmm. So we're not doing more than 2 weddings in a day, and mm-hmm. if you have a preference between Laura or myself, mm-hmm. then it's kind of a first come, first serve. So.
Of course. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the day of.
Sure.
When should people actually reach out for like month of coordination? Is it always at the beginning of the planning process mm-hmm. in regards to the month of, or do you recommend 3 to 6 months out that
Sure.
they reach out to you for that?
I think that if you know you want to hire a particular planner, be it us or anybody else, the sooner the better. Mm-hmm. You know, we have one weekend available in April of next year. So if somebody calls tomorrow, they could get that. Mm-hmm. Or if they call a month before, then they could get that. So it's all based on availability. Mm-hmm. So we have clients that have booked us this year for this year, and we have several clients already for 2021.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
insane.
I know, right? And the worst part is it's going to be here before we know it.
Oh, that's true. We actually just got an inquiry before coming here for 2021, which is insane.
I know.
But I get it. I get it. So now, is there a particular type of bride, or I don't want to segregate them into anything like that, but there are certain people that just want to go ahead and just have month of coordination. There are some people that just want full-on wedding planning. Is there a particular type of bride that you would recommend?
I think that if you're the kind of, bride or groom that want to plan your own wedding, neither of those options are going to take that away from you. So a lot of people think, well, I want to plan my own wedding, so I just need a month of coordinator. And that's true. But you could still want to plan your own wedding and have a full planner, because we're just going to be there for advice and help. You might say, I really like this particular style of floral. And we'll say, great, that's a great style. Here are some florists that could be really good. And then we'll check with those florists. We'll see if they're available. We'll book the appointments. We'll go on those appointments with you. We'll review those contracts. So that's all part of a full planning service. So if you're a really busy bride, maybe you have a really demanding career, or maybe you're a mom and you can't carve out the time to really focus on planning the way that you want to, then a full plan could be a good option for you.
Cool. In regards to, I know some venues, they come with venue coordinators, and that's something that a lot of couples, they see that and they're like, oh, I could save myself some money because the venue comes with a coordinator. They'll plan everything for me. Now, is there a difference between a venue coordinator and a wedding planner?
I mean, there's definitely a difference between a venue coordinator and a wedding planner, and the degree of involvement of a venue coordinator depends on the venue. There are some venue coordinators out there that, really are kind of like a wedding planner, but no matter what, at the end of the day, their first priority is the venue. That's their employer. That's who takes care of them. So the venue comes first. With an outside planner, we are going to be your person. We're your representative. We're definitely going to work hand in hand with your venue coordinator or your venue, because we want to make sure that we're invited back. We want to have a good relationship with them, but we're the bride and the groom's representative. We have their best interest at heart.
That makes so much sense, because whenever we work weddings, it's almost our main priority is making sure that the couple is happy.
Right.
110%. Obviously, we want to keep good relations with a lot of the vendors that we work with, including the venue themselves. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure my couple is happy.
Right.
And that makes perfect sense that a wedding planner is there to represent the couple and make sure that they're happy. They're their number one priority, not the venue, not any of the other vendors, just them. So that makes perfect sense. So obviously, when you're planning a wedding, you're on a budget.
Sure.
You want to go ahead and you want to not necessarily limit, but you want to stay within reason for a couple of things. What couples would expect to invest on a wedding planner?
So I think that if you're looking to have like a month of coordinator, budgeting at least up to about $2,000 is a good idea. Okay. There are some of us that are available for less, and there are some that are available for more. But I think that if you put that number into your budget, that's going to cover you for your planner, possibly for like an extra meeting if you have to add that on, or maybe some design session time. But that's a good budget. Okay. For a full planner, that's a bigger range. It depends on the size of your wedding. It can depend on, how intricate it is, how many details, how many vendors that you have. I think that, if you can set aside, maybe $4,000 to $5,000 for that, there's, again, higher or lower.
Depends.
It really does depend on each individual's background and what they offer, but that's a good amount of money, I think, to set aside, especially considering how much time your planner is going to spend with you for full planning. Like, we're involved for a long period of time. So.
Especially when, there's some, like we mentioned earlier, 2021.
Yeah.
Like, people are reaching out, 18 months and beyond to make sure that everything is perfect for their wedding day. So I totally understand that 110%. On the other side of things, there are certain instances where like a friend or a friend is a corporate event planner or just a typical event planner. Is there any difference between a wedding planner and an event planner or corporate event planner?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
Our skill sets, there is some overlap. So we have some of the same skill sets: organizational skills, timelining, working with vendors, running things behind the scenes. I actually come from a corporate planning background. Oh. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I have a little bit of insight into that.
Okay.
The one thing that I say, it's an easy way to phrase it, is corporate event planning is more handshakes and wedding planning is more hugs. So
that's actually really
there's a lot of emotion involved in the wedding day, a lot of family dynamics. In the perfect world, everybody's family member gets along with everybody's family member, and it's the happiest day. Mm-hmm. But it's not always the case. So understanding family dynamics, dealing with things that come up. As a corporate planner, you're on a timeline, it's a punch list. You're getting from A to B to C. The goal is for that to happen on wedding day too, but if the bride just had an emotional breakdown because she's so nervous, mm-hmm. she might not walk down the aisle at 4:30. It might be 4:35. It might be 4:40, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. With wedding planning, we build some padding into the timeline to help accommodate for those things, and we make it up where we can. We communicate with the kitchen to make sure their food's still going to be perfect, right? Because those chefs definitely want that to come out the way it's planned. But we have to have a little more flexibility. And with corporate planning, while it's great to have that too, it's usually a lot more this happens and that happens and then this happens and it's good and everybody goes and they leave for the day.
Definitely. I agree with you 110% because the times where, just the day shifts in one direction or the other, you have to have that flexibility and that natural ability to just adjust to what's going on, especially on the day out. Now, for somebody that has no experience whatsoever, I mean, in regards to planning, I mean, do you just say, hey, just leave it to the professionals? Do you recommend that they see anything? Because in my opinion, I prefer to work with a professional. I would prefer to have somebody that has experience under their belt. Now, let's take out event planning, corporate planning, and wedding planning, and their friends doing this. Okay. Do you just recommend that not happen at all?
Everybody starts somewhere. Yeah. Right? So your friend could be amazing. Mm-hmm. They could be the most organized, level-headed, problem-solving person in the world. They could one day make a really great planner, but they don't have enough experience yet. So if the day goes off without a hitch, the weather's perfect, nothing breaks, everybody shows up on time, it could be a perfect day. Mm-hmm. That's a lot to gamble tens of thousands of dollars on because the cake collapses. Somebody gets a flat tire and things are running behind. Something happens in the kitchen. A centerpiece, shatters. What are you going to do? Yeah. I'm a better planner today than I was 11 years ago.
Of course.
Yeah, I have. I've gone through more. I have more experience. So, if you have a friend that's really organized and they want to help, they want to be, through the process, going to meetings with you and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. But let them be your friend. Let them be your friend the day of. Let them enjoy that moment versus being behind the scenes and missing things because they were trying to keep control of everything that was happening.
Yes, I 100% agree with that as well because there's so many instances where you see things behind the scenes and I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a wedding planner's job on the day of is to make sure that all those fires that pop up are put out immediately. Mm-hmm.
I love when my clients say, it was perfect, nothing went wrong. And I'm like,
You're like, yes, it went perfectly.
That's because that's my job. That's my job to make sure everything goes perfectly. And I troubleshoot everything and I only get them involved if it's absolutely necessary.
That's awesome. That's in and of itself perfectly explained. Now, let's say somebody just got engaged yesterday and is planning their wedding day. What is one solid piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh, man. So with technology, right, with Pinterest and everything, it's easy to find really great ideas. Once upon a time, you had to go to the store and buy a bunch of magazines every month and cut pictures out, but that's not how it is now. It's at your fingertips. Have your own wedding. Find out what is important to you, what's important to your fiance, and incorporate bits and pieces of your personality into your event. Your guests are going to recognize that. They're going to come in and they're going to see, a little favor on the table if you decide to do those. But don't just do a baggie of M&Ms with your faces on them. If you love M&Ms, by all means, do M&Ms with your faces on them. But you don't even eat candy, that doesn't really make sense. And plus, you're probably going to be left with a whole bunch of M&Ms at the end of the wedding.
Yep.
So find ways to incorporate yourselves, your personality, your pets if that's an option, and just really make it about the two of you. And then enjoy it. It happens. It's a huge lead up to the day. It's a giant one-night production, right? It comes to town. It's an amazing show, and then it's gone and done. So enjoy it.
That's awesome. That's so true, by the way. Like seeing their personality and everything, because you can tell. We photographed hundreds of weddings, and like you can just tell when somebody puts in the thought and effort into making sure that everything is personalized to them. So, but I do appreciate your time, especially taking it out of this crazy busyness.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I guess that's about it.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, that was a ton of information. Thank you so much, Christy, for taking the time out of your day to actually give us all that information and advice. I hope that you were able to actually learn something and pick up some pieces of advice, information, little nuggets of info that you could apply towards your wedding planning experience and kind of put you on either side of the fence on whether or not you actually want a wedding planner for your wedding day itself. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, and we are working on the next video, so we'll update the link in the description below once that's said and done. But you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell. That way you'll get notified when we go ahead and post it online. That's probably the easiest way to support the channel. If you have any questions or comments, just leave it in the comment section below and we'll get back to you ASAP. But aside from that, Ginger and myself, we wish you a good day, and we'll see you next time. Happy planning.